Good evening and welcome to the local news. Today is Tuesday, June 1st. I'm Lauren Schmidt reporting for KMUD. In tonight's news, settlement reached in civil rights lawsuit between journalist and Humboldt County Sheriffs. Local shooting restrictions expand, and Mendocino Sheriff and 5th District Supervisor reflect on proposed audit of the Sheriff's Office. Stay tuned. News on those stories and more coming right up. On May 24th, the Civil Liberties Defense Center announced that journalist Mike Gamms had reached a settlement with the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office regarding a police brutality incident from almost 2 years ago. KMUD's Stella Gerkins reports.
On May 24th, the Civil Liberties Defense Center announced that a resolution had been reached in the federal civil rights lawsuit of journalist Mike Gamms against Humboldt County and 2 of its sheriff's deputies for police brutality, false arrest, First Amendment retaliation, and malicious prosecution. This lawsuit was in response to an encounter between Gamms and the police officers on June 17, 2019, in which Gamms was in the field reporting on protests against proposed logging and herbicide use by the Humboldt Redwood Company in the Mattole watershed. The encounter took place on public land near Rio Dell. KMUD spoke with Gamms, who described the incident in his own words.
Like seconds before I was violently assaulted by Humboldt County Deputy Moore, I identified myself as press, and Deputy Moore responded, "I don't care," and then proceeded to throw me to the ground and then put his entire body weight on me while he held me on the ground, face first on the ground. And this was after clearly identifying myself as press and Deputy Moore acknowledging that I identified myself as press and saying that he did not care. As a result of this violent assault, I received many injuries, the largest injury being a fractured rib. And I also had several other bruised ribs and several lacerations and contusions on my face, my lip, my eye, and I even had a loosened tooth. The fractured rib was an injury that continued to bother me for a very, very long time. That's something that affects when you breathe, when you laugh, when you cough. It hurts for months and months and months and months.
Gamms also said that he thought he was targeted due to the fact that he was a journalist, and at that time, then President Trump was openly threatening the media. Following the assault, Gamms's case was taken on by the Civil Liberties Defense Center, or CLDC. KMUD also spoke with Marianne Dugan, a senior staff attorney at the CLDC, about why it felt so important to represent Gamms.
We were definitely interested in taking this on, not just because of the targeting of reporters, which is really important for us to shine a spotlight on, but also for the importance of this watershed and the old growth forest to protecting the climate, which is at the heart of a lot of our work. And, we definitely wanted to help Mike get some compensation, though that's not our core mission. We're not a for-profit law firm, so we don't take cases just because we think we're going to get money for folks or for ourselves. This had a lot of important issues that we were really excited to help shine a spotlight on.
Dugan also spoke about the Sheriff's Department's response to the incident.
I was consistently shocked and surprised that even though this was caught on video, that it's a little dark, the video, but there's some still photos, there's good audio, excellent audio. It was so clear to us that number one, Mike was targeted as media because he was standing apart from the protesters, and yet the officer went around protesters to grab him first. And that number two, he was just suddenly assaulted and thrown to the ground. And the county's response was, well, we think that we can prove that other protesters were pulling him away and they're the ones who caused him to fall to the ground and injure himself. And we had still photos and video of him being thrown to the ground and officers kneeling on him. So this was just this absurd response.
KMUD News has the audio of that video of the attack, which will play now. As a warning for our listeners, some may find this audio clip distressing.
warned.
Press.
I don't care.
Whoa. Yo.
Off of me. You're not
Stop! He's on public property!
No, he wasn't. He walked back to private property into where he was just warned.
We are on public property.
That's so
15
uncalled
feet from the
for.
center of the
That's so inappropriate.
public property, man.
Back up. Back up now or you're going to jail.
Oh my God! Stop!
Stop. Someone grab my glasses. My glasses are right there. You got her? Rest her. Back up now.
Take the glasses. Take them.
Grab the glasses.
Do not move. You guys are arresting people on public property right now.
KMUD reached out to the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office for comment, but has not heard back. In a press release from the CLDC, Gamms stated the following: "Nearly 2 years after I was violently assaulted and unlawfully arrested by Humboldt County for documenting an action to defend the Mattole's old-growth forest, I am relieved to be able to secure even the slightest semblance of justice for this egregious violation of my rights. Unsurprisingly, the county flat out refused to make any effort to reform its unreformable police department. And the fact that even if the cops had agreed to such reforms, it would do little to address the systemic oppression and state-sponsored violence that this capitalist, white supremacist, colonial state was founded on. It is more and more clear every day that the only path to liberation is total police abolition." End quote. Dugan spoke further about their attempts to include reform in the settlement.
When we went to a settlement conference, they consistently refused to even consider any policy change, trainings. We went out of our way to research some trainings that might help in the future, even though we know that, tinkering around the edges with reform is not really going to solve the systemic problems in the police system. But we were willing to consider, if you do some trainings or policy work, our client will accept less money, and they refused. So in the end, we were able to settle. We think we made some good changes just in filing the lawsuit by saying, look, we're not going to put up with this. You can't get away with this. And they did agree to also request that the DA drop the criminal charges against Mike, which were ridiculous.
As of now, the DA has not dropped the criminal case against Gamms, although a different criminal attorney is working to get the charges dropped entirely. Stella Gerkens for KMUD News.